It's great to be in Cambridge. This is the third year in a row that we come to Cambridge to do the town hall meeting. And, just coming out of Washington, this is the place to be. I can breathe out here, So thank you for welcoming us. Mr. Mayor, it's great to be in your city. Adrian is actually the driving force here. And we become very good friends, but we actually get work done. I'm also really honored to welcome the ambassador of Sierra Leone as our special guest. He's a dear friend of mine in Washington. He's a leader among the African Diplomatic Corps, and he came to Cambridge to seek partnership, collaboration and cooperation with your city. So I think today is going to be really a historic day. We want to come out of this with something that can benefit both Sierra Leone and Cambridge. We want your young people to link up with Cambridge. We want your other people to talk about business and trade. We want to get involved in the political issues of Cambridge, of Sierra Leone, so that then we want to dance. We want to have the art, the culture appreciated. So I think that all of that we're going to try to accomplish today. So thank you very much for having me. And I'm excited to be here and looking forward to a dynamic program here with the town hall meeting. Harriet Tubman. Let me also say this is the day of resilience and resistance. Certainly 9/11, September the 11th is something that should be on all of our mind. But it's also a day to do something, to make America better. So today is about making America better. And whatever issues we have, let's start to move on it here. Let's work at the community level, and let's parlay that to the national level and really to the global level. So thank you very much for having us, and we look forward to a wonderful program. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, my voice speaks loud. So again, I just wanted to thank you all for coming and supporting this town hall meeting. This is so serendipitous that a few of our community partners had talked about a sister city program, and then I had spoken with Mel about what we were going to do for the Day of Resilience, and it just all flowed so easily together. And so, Ambassador, thank you so much for investing the time to come and begin the talks about what are the possibilities of a sister city program. I'm super excited about it. I want to thank my board, Melvin Foote with CFA. The city of Cambridge, they have been so supportive in this initiative. I just feel like there is nothing we can't do. We can get this done. This is for our young people. This changes the trajectory of how we relate on a global level. So I appreciate you all for coming. I am just going to introduce my team, Mayor Bradshaw, and then he will introduce NYCS. And this kind of tells the story of how we got to this point. And then from this point, we will begin to formulate our next steps. So I just want to introduce Mayor Andrew Bradshaw. He is so full of energy and vision. I am really, I was a little concerned at first, but I have really grown to be fond of you. And thank you for your overwhelming support on it. He's just open to new vision and new thought. And he has an anchored place in this conversation. I think you are the catalyst for pushing these ideas to the next level. And the talks that you have with the ambassador and us and the others that will join that are critical. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mayor Cambridge, Mayor Bradshaw.
Must be COVID sensitive.
Sorry, my mess is over there.
Okay. Okay.
Well, as Adrian said, I'm Andrew Bradshaw. I'm mayor of the city of Cambridge. I took office in January, and I think since I took office and the new city commission, we've really had a renewed focus on the kinds of partnerships we can build within this community and also with others outside the city of Cambridge that can build upon one another, both the city of Cambridge and our partners, whether they be other organizations or even in this case, perhaps another country, because we do see the great opportunity that exists here in the city of Cambridge, and we understand what this place is capable of. And we understand the resiliency that Cambridge has shown over the course of many, many decades. You know, when I was giving remarks over at the courthouse about an hour ago, I guess at this point, one of the things I talked about was how if there's anywhere where a day of resiliency should be celebrated, it really is at the city of Cambridge, because you know, going back centuries, we're a place that's seen deep division, and we've seen conflict, and we've seen at times a lack of understanding and a splitting of communities. And I think now we're reaching a point over the last 20, 30 years, we've developed toward a point where there's a form of unity and there's a brotherhood that's starting to develop. And I think that now we're in a position and have an opportunity where we can move the city and this community and this county and this region forward, and we can build brotherhood and understanding where previously there had been conflict and disagreement. And you know, we're at a time now where we're working to build the community that we want to have for ourselves, but we're also at a crossroads where we're building the community that we're going to hand over to the next generation and the generation after that over the course of the next 20, 30 years. So I'm joined today here by Commissioners Jamison Harrington and Commissioner Spuddy Cephas. Commission President Lejeanne Cephas has also been with us. I think she's outside at the mural right now. She'll be in at some point for the discussion as well. And I want to introduce as well NYCS, Perry Bromwell and Mike Bryan, who have done an excellent job. They've really strengthened what they want to do. They've developed relationships globally already in an effort to build an opportunity for youth in this community, but also cultural exchange, economic exchange that's going to lead to opportunity for young people and just for this community as a whole. They're excellent folks, and I'm happy to have gotten to know them and call them friends. So if they want to come up.
Thank you. I want to certainly we're grateful for the opportunity. Mike is a cousin of mine, and you know, we have been talking about this for some time now. Mike started NYCS National Youth Care Service in '87, and around that time I was finishing school at University of Penn, but I grew up here and always came back home, and so my travels led me to Africa in 2012, 13, 18, and then just before the pandemic, I settled in Accra, and I took a visit to Sierra Leone. So through that connection, coming back, talking to Mike about what we could do, we knew it was time to really give this exposure to the youth here. So Mike had been doing a lot of dynamic things in music, sports with young people here, working out of Macy's Lane Middle School for about a decade or so. So it was just the right time, and certainly he's been working with Adrian also. So we knew we had support. He did a lot of good work in the field of building relationships with small businesses around the town, which are now keen on what we're doing to give us some support going over. So we just really are just glad that Mr. Foote is a part of this as well, because now there are two ambassadors connected somewhat here. And we think we can do a lot with your help, though. It's going to take a lot of help in the community to pull this together for our youth. I think they can do a lot more than what's been done here. So we just are excited and really appreciative of this opportunity to start something that even Adrian told us. He said, this is so new, we're just going to keep it open somewhat to see where it can go, from the basis of knowing we have some connections. And we'll start a travel tourism exposure program for young people around 12, middle school to high school 17. looking to go over around the spring break time of 22. Winter break will determine which time frame we'll go over for our first visit to Freetown. And we know it's going to take a lot of work to put all the dynamic pieces together around business and trade. But we want to start there because we know that our high school, where I graduated from here in Cambridge, has such a really expansive trade center, the DCTC, I believe. And we look to partner with them and have some workshops where we can expose young people to all these different fields out there, because we also sense that education is changing from a traditional perspective to more hands-on trades and other types of things in technology. So that's the gist of the NYCS Global Tours, we call it, in our new initiative. And we just got our logo designed. We're excited about that and looking to get some support around what we've raised already to take this trip to Ghana is where we're going to meet. Then we're going to fly into Freetown and meet with some of our partners there and talk about the networks we'll build, relationships we'll start, and doing what we need to do to have this first initiative over there. So we appreciate your interest and time and support that we can rally up around this initiative. Okay. So that's the gist of it. You know, we'd like to take on some questions or anything that may seem of interest to you all about how this should be shaped and be organized going forward. Of course, it was also great to have the meeting last night with the ambassador at Hyatt. We sat down and talked about some various things, and you know, it was just real expensive to know what we can do. At the end,
questions at the end.
okay, thank you. That'd be question. So that sums up NYCS local, global youth initiative, and again, we're thankful for this opportunity and all the support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to say how personally pleased I am to be moderating this town hall. My personal history and background reflects what you're trying to do here. I have a father who was born in Sierra Leone and an African-American mother born in Massachusetts, not quite Cambridge, but so this is, you know, I felt like I was the perfect person. So I'm very honored to be here. And I'm particularly honored to introduce Dr. Julius Garvey, who will be introducing the ambassador. And please bear with me, my eyes are not what they should be for a person this young. So Dr. Julius Garvey is a board certified surgeon specializing in the diagnosis and treatment of vascular diseases. Dr. Garvey is the son of the late Marcus Garvey, founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, and an early proponent for civil rights and Pan-Africanism. How honored we are. As the founder and medical director of Garvey Vascular Specialists, Dr. Garvey brings a wealth of experience and knowledge into his practice. His skill and proficiency provided his patients with an extensive range of expertise in the areas of arterial venous diseases. Dr. Garvey, a highly trained and credentialed surgeon, has held extensive academic appointments. Dr. Garvey is both nationally and internationally recognized for his contributions to medicine and speaks, teaches, and presents clinical research at conferences across the country. He is a member of the International College of Angiology, the Phlebology Society of America, the New York Academy of Sciences, the American Heart Association, the Society of Thoracic Surgeons, the Association for Academic Surgery, the Association for the Advancement of Wound Care, and the New York Society of Thoracic Surgery. Dr. Garvey is a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons in Canada, the American College of Surgeons, the American College of Phlebology, the International College of Surgeons, and the American College of Chest Physicians. In addition, he is a diplomate of the Board of Cardiothoracic and Vascular Surgery, the American Board of Surgery, and the American Academy of Wound Management. So please help me in welcoming Dr. Garvey, who will be with us virtually to introduce the ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be here with you today virtually. Not in Cambridge today, but I was there 3 years ago at the first town hall meeting arranged by Milford and CFA, and hosted by Reverend James Whitaker and Reverend Randolph Fitchett. And that was a memorable occasion. And as we come here today, we need to pay homage to the most enduring characteristic of Harriet Tubman in terms of our day of resilience. And that is her commitment to freedom. Despite the abuses of slavery, she fought free from the physical entanglement of slavery. But I think more than that is that she fought free from mental enslavement. And she showed herself a true, free African human being living in the United States of America. But there was more to that, in that she didn't just free herself. There was her lack of selfishness, as she returned over and over to bring more enslaved persons to freedom, despite the hardships and despite the danger to her own life and freedom. So she's indeed a role model for all of us, those as old as I am, as well as those youths that we were just discussing. As we focus on Sierra Leone today, I think we should be reminded of several groups of immigrants from the Americas in the 18th century who arrived there as free slaves from North America, freed by the British, and a group of Maroons who had escaped from slavery in Jamaica, who arrived there in 1800, and of course some others also in the 19th century. And those formed a hub, if you will, linked to the indigenous populations that were there. And indeed, Sierra Leone was able to achieve its independence in 1961. And of course, the capital is called Freetown in honor of the freedom of those who had previously been enslaved. I had the honor to visit Sierra Leone and Freetown several times, along with Ericana Chiambori, who became the AU ambassador to the USA. At that time, we were involved with the African Diaspora Health Initiative and were engaged in medical missions to Sierra Leone. It was under the presidency of President Koroma at that time. Unfortunately, our mission was ended sort of abruptly, if you will, by the Ebola crisis of 2014. But it was very interesting to visit Sierra Leone, because if you close your eyes, you could hear the patois that was spoken in Kingston, Jamaica, and you wouldn't know whether you're in Freetown, Sierra Leone, or Kingston, Jamaica. And of course, everybody there loved their meat patties, which is also a staple of the diet in Kingston. So I was very surprised at that in terms of how that tradition and that cultural infusion, shall we say, from the Americas and the Caribbean had also been implanted into Sierra Leone. Now, today, we have with us a very worthy son of Sierra Leone, whom I have known for more than 25 years, as we both ran the streets of New York. He was a deputy director of the Institute of African Affairs at New York University, community liaison for Brooklyn Borough President, and he served as community advisors to many commissioners of the New York City Police Department. At the same time, he was president and national spokesperson for the United African Congress, representing the interests of more than 3 million continental Africans living in the United States. He played a significant role in that Ebola epidemic that I just mentioned in 2014, in terms of gathering funds and involving the United Nations here in New York in terms of efforts to help the medical situation in Sierra Leone and the pandemic, that Ebola pandemic. So he was very, very instrumental in moving a lot of material and funds to help to bring that pandemic to a close. In 2018, Sadiq Wai was appointed ambassador to the United States and the Caribbean by His Excellency President Bio. He serves as Secretary General for the Economic Community of West African States and is co-chair for Diaspora Engagement and Public Affairs for the African Union Ambassadors Group. He has led several policy initiatives, including lifting the United States visa ban so that the diaspora could mobilize $7.5 million US to fight the COVID pandemic in Sierra Leone. So you can see he has been at the front line of assistance to Sierra Leone, whether he was on the streets of New York or he was on the streets of Washington, D.C. He has helped to establish the Free Quality Education Basket Fund to construct a co-educational academy in Sierra Leone. And this year he co-hosted the 60th anniversary of Sierra Leone's independence, which was a significant event. Ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed an honor for me to consider Ambassador Sadiq Wai a personal friend, and it's indeed a pleasure for me to introduce Sadiq Wai, the People's Ambassador. Thank you.
Is Sadiq Wai meant to join us virtually? And is Sadiq Wai under a different name?
So,
You see yourself, you're
yeah.
talking.
So I just want Dr. Garvey to know that I didn't cut him off. So I didn't want to come. Thank you so much. But thank you so much, Dr. Garvey, for the work you have done for humanity and your leadership in this world. And we will ever remain eternally grateful. In the same vein, I would also like to recognize in that spirit, my brother and good friend, Melvin Foote. When some of us came here voluntarily, we didn't come on ships, we paid our ticket and we came here. We didn't go on Wall Street. We didn't go on Madison Avenue. We went to communities like Hyde, Harlem, Bedford-Stuyvesant. It took people like Mel and others to also open their arms, to take us in and to show us the road. How, if some of us are sitting here, me in particular, if I'm sitting here today, addressing this ghost body nationally and internationally, I have to say I have sat on the shoulders of these people. So please give them a round of applause for. My sister, Adrian Holmes, Madam President. I say, you know, when somebody is an army personnel, they give orders. And if you don't take it, you're in trouble. But Sister Adrian, the fact that some of us are here as living witnesses, because everybody that spoke today talked about how, particularly on this day of resistance, that you have demonstrated an extremely important role to have a vision that you said, we're going to get it done, and to have the incredible support of people of goodwill, including your great and dynamic mayor in this town, and all of the commissioners and all of the community people to come together. That is a real tribute to a woman that is not only talking about it, but making it happen. Thank you, sister. You know, I cannot sit here without recognizing, you talk about the diaspora, and my colleague, the diaspora of Rachel Horner, please stand up and let the people see you. And that is, when I came here last night, I had the pleasure and the unique opportunity and honor to have dinner with some dynamic individuals. And the one thing, some of the things that came out of that discussion, some of them said, well, we left, but we came back, and we are now contributing to this. We did not leave. And if you heard the doctor today that talked about his great-grandfather, great-grandfather, the place where we are standing today was the place that they were going to sell his great-great-grandfather. But he says he's now in somewhere, but he always comes back. And that is the spirit in which I want to spend some moments to talk about giving back and never forgetting where you came from. So I am extremely also honored and delighted that my sister, Dr. Blyden, who is my own country person, and is joining us at this panel, somebody who has done well, who have carried the torch of our country in academia. So I want to thank you for your role. And my brother that went to Sierra Leone and planning on taking this youth trip to Sierra Leone. I want to give you a big shout out. If for purposes of this discussion, I'm not saying this, but that's what the research is saying, that by 2025, the largest population of people on this planet are going to be the youth. So we must take care. We must pay attention to that. So I decided to do this keynote address in two parts, and because of its significance. The first part, I wrote a speech. The second part, I'm going to talk like a homeboy from the hood. And that is perhaps what is going to begin to bring these pieces together. There is always a thing in diplomacy, we talk about Your Excellency and so forth and so on. And my brother Mel used to say, he says, you know, Sadiq, is wonderful, all of these praises, all of these conferences. After the conferences, then what? So I would like to engage the attendees here, and by phone, wherever you are. It is not enough to just make speeches where people are struggling, where communities are bleeding. It's not enough to write books, but it is good also for people to learn some of those experiences. But at the end of the day, this is what we say on the streets of Harlem. What have you done for me lately? Where do we go next? So we will spend some time and just my own thoughts, because this diaspora that you talk about, I am a living example of this diaspora that you talk about. And so, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is the diplomatic part. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this important event in our collective history as African people. It is by no mistake that I'm here today, because we share so much in common as Black people that have experienced struggles and challenges of historical proportions. My country and land of birth, Sierra Leone, is on the west coast of Africa with a population of 7.5 million people. The country is endowed with natural resources such as diamond, gold, bauxite, iron ore, and many more, along with arable land and beautiful vegetation with attractive beaches across the country. Those of you who want to go to vacation, you want to go to get sunbathing and all of that, think Sierra Leone. Though Sierra Leone is full of challenging events, the people have nevertheless built a strong resilience over the years in surviving as a people. The country was ravaged by an 11-year civil war that left over 50,000 dead. Ebola did not help that situation either in 2014 and 2015, mudslide. We had mudslide, we had flooding, and now the COVID-19 pandemic. But with strong leadership from our dynamic president, His Excellency retired Brigadier Dr. Julius Garvey, COVID-19 was reasonably contained within the minimal, with us having the minimal casualties for a long time. It is not me saying it, but the record was clear that Sierra Leone was among the lowest recorded number of deaths in the world. How did we do it? It takes leadership, and it also takes resilience of the people. The name Sierra Leone came from a Portuguese language, Sierra Leone, meaning the Lion Mountains. Sierra Leone was one of the first countries in West Africa that attracted European interest. As early as the 15th century, Portuguese sailors spotted Sierra Leone River estuary as a good location to produce fresh water and food. Many different European countries engaged in commerce in the decades that followed with the people who lived along the coast before a notable trade in human captives began. This trade, according to historians, devastated Africa and is still today believed to be a catalyst for the underdevelopment of the continent of Africa. The transatlantic slave trade, as the trade in human came to be known, gave back to the Atlantic world of people, goods, and cultures that circulated, collided, and melded together to lay the foundations for a much more modern world. To tell the stories of European expansion, African migration, and the evolution of the new world without the transatlantic slave trade and the people it involved is to ignore a central thread of world history. Transatlantic slave trade can be understood through the experience of a single enslaved person who endured a series of catastrophic events that by design served him from home, family, and nearly all things familiar, tested the spirit of and will of resilient men, women, and children who struggle to find meaning and happiness in the new world dependent on their labor and coercion. Scholars are claiming that European slavers loaded approximately 12.5 million Africans into Atlantic slave ships, and about 11 million survived the Middle Passage to landfall and life in the Americas. The greatest majority of captives were collected from West Africa, Central Africa, and from Angola. Before the first African arrived in British North America in 1619, more than 1 million African captives had already been transported and enslaved in Brazil. British slave traders alone transported 3.5 million Africans to the Americas. First, the slave trade was a victimization of millions of African men, women, and children. The profits garnered by Americans and Europeans from the slave trade and slavery made possible the development of economic and political growth in major regions of the Americas and Europe. It is not me saying it. It is the history that is real. Notably, the profits generated from the Atlantic slave trade economically and politically transformed port cities like Liverpool and Bristol in England, Nantes and Bordeaux in France, Lisbon in Portugal, Rio de Janeiro and Salvador in Bahia, Brazil, and you guessed it, Newport, Rhode Island in the United States. Each port developed links to a wide hinterland for local and international goods that sustain the trade in African captives. It is difficult to imagine a system that once treated human beings as commodities with price tags was not only legal, but was considered to be ethical and a major source of wealth, influence, and responsibility for many. By the early 17th century, however, the slave trade was a sophisticated commercial system that hinged on the availability of captives transported to the coast by African traders deep in the interior of the African continent. Only after a perilous passage from the interior where survivors exchanged for a combination of textiles, weapons, alcohol, or other European goods, and loaded aboard large canoes that took them to slave ships anchored off the coast. Intuitively, slave ships were dangerous, violent, and disease-ridden. After capture in Africa to their final sale in the Americas, enslaved people experienced loss, terror, and abuse. These patterns of trade that swept Africans from their villages into an international commerce that placed them in the New World as commodities for over 400 years still have remnants and scars in our communities today. Through creativity, resilience, and faith in God, survivors of the Middle Passage and their descendants have forged meaningful lives circumscribed by the oppressive societies in which they found themselves. Sierra Leone's history became enmeshed in that of the movement of the abolition and suppression of the transatlantic slave trade. After the American Revolution, Great Britain evacuated several thousands of Black loyalists to different places in its empire, like London and Nova Scotia and Canada. This group was composed of former slaves who supported the British war effort or who sought refuge behind British lines. The Black loyalists who arrived in London, added to existing, many of these people suffered under terrible poverty and lack of employment and depended on public or private assistance to survive. In 1786, the province of Freedom was established that offered a permanent home for impoverished Blacks under the British Royal Navy. In 1787, the first group of about 400 men and women arrived in Sierra Leone from Great Britain. When conditions became unfavorable in Nova Scotia, Sierra Leone became a site for relocation. About 1,200 Black Nova Scotians decided to move on British ships in 1792 to Sierra Leone. The settlements of the Committee for the Relief of the Black, Poor, and Nova Scotians established the roots of Free Town, which will become the capital of Sierra Leone. The final influx of new residents arrived in 1800. The Maroons was from Jamaica, the Majesty Dr. Julius Garvey was talking about. Great Britain outlawed the transatlantic slave trade in 1807 and began to use the Royal Navy's West Africa Squadron to enforce its ban on slavery. The squadron was based in Freetown, which in 1808 had become a crown colony and a city for freed slaves. The squadron patrolled and intercepted slave trading vessels along the African coast and landed these captives where, you guessed it, Freetown. Many of these captives chose to remain in Sierra Leone, helping to build the colony's population. The diverse sources of Freetown settlers from North America, the Caribbean, and many African nations composed Sierra Leone's own ethnic group, the Creole, with their own unique language and the cultural forms. One would ask, why did the slave trade thrive so long without resistance from the Africans on the continent? The firepower of slavers overpowered the resistance of Africans for a long time. However, a Sierra Leonean by the name of Sengbe Pierre, a Sierra Leonean sold into slavery, resisted slavery, and forced a slave ship to land in Connecticut in the United States. Sengbe Pierre gained freedom and returned to serve his people later on in history. Sierra Leone played a pivotal role in the chain of the slave trade and the abolition of the slave trade. Sierra Leone was colonized for hundreds of years by the British and became an independent state on April 27, 1961. The country has since been struggling to transform itself into a democratic state. The country is currently on the trajectory of recovering from all historical pitfalls. The current government, of which I'm a part of, has chosen under our leadership a signature tool of human capital development as the flagship program, and 22% of the nation's wealth is spent on educating the population of the country. This has increased the enrollment of pupils in schools to 2.6 million with free textbooks and free school feeding program to retain the children in schools. Law reforms are rapidly happening with the expunging of the criminal libel law from the 1965 Public Order Act that had militated against free speech, and the recent removal of the death penalty from our Constitution. Frantic efforts are being made to ensure gender parity, and the current government has waged ferocious war on corruption, which has levied credence to the country with the recent apportionment of US $400 million Challenge Corporation MCC funds from the United States to Sierra Leone. Transparency International has moved Sierra Leone from the index of 42% in 2018 to 87% in 2021. And the recent Universal Periodic Review by the United Nations rated Sierra Leone highly for her human rights record. Very recently, the Foreign Minister of the Republic of Sierra Leone was in the United States, where he informed the US Undersecretary of State, Honorable Wendy Sherman, that Sierra Leone is a business-friendly country with one-stop shop for registration of businesses. Sierra Leone is a signature to the New York Convention for Arbitration Matters Involving Business and Investors. The country is inviting credible investors to join them and venture into the untapped resources of the country. The World Bank has supported the geodata survey whereby all precious minerals have been located and documented to save potential investors interested in the mining sectors from long years of exploration. The untapped crude oil, marine resources, arable land for agricultural products with 6 months of rain all throughout the year makes Sierra Leone a very unique country and a destination for doing business. As a country, we are aware that it is crucial for the African Americans to explore the opportunities in their ancestral African continent and help develop the people and nations. Many African Americans have decided to go back. And I want to assure all that your ancestral family and home continent is more than ready and willing to receive you all again. As long as you are a Black man or woman, you are an African. Let me say that again. As long as you are a Black man or woman, you are an African. Let me end my remark, this very personal message from me to all of you inside and outside this room. When some of us traveled nautical miles to land in the Americas without change, you welcome us as brothers and sisters. Some of you embraced us, and some of you with a little bit of difficulty. But in today's world, we share a common ancestry, history, as well as challenges. Until we connect and work together as one family, irrespective of our place of birth, the common challenges and struggles we face as a people will always endure. Thankfully, some of us have figured it out by knowing and believing that the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey reminded us that we are what? A mighty race. And of course, that could do anything for ourselves. Let us work together, help each other in the spirit of unity, equal opportunity, and justice for all. I am you, you are me. Together, we are one. Let's end that on that note. Repeat after me. I am you, you are me. Together, we are one. Now I go to my homeboy message. I had an incredible dinner with some folks. And before this whole gathering, my good friend and big brother, Melford, as he does, when he does something, he does it meticulously. He says, Ambassador, I sometimes am embarrassed when he and Dr. Garvey call me ambassador. So he says, before this event, we're gonna have a Zoom. Let's get to know my sister, the military lady. He says he warned me. He says she doesn't play now. So we had that discussion. And I said to her, to both of them, I said, let us be real. This business, until we as a community of people recognize that our destinies are tied to each other, it does not matter how many degrees you have. It does not matter how much money you have. If you're only one person, it's like the pit syndrome. You are up here and there are 1,000 people in the pit and you throw them a lifeline. What's going to happen? They're going to bring you down into that hole. So this business for me is personal because having lived in this country for 40 years and being a leader of the African diaspora in this country, Melvin Foote, Dr. Julius Garvey, you all hear about Africa, the 6th region. Well, let me tell the world today, without these people, it would have never happened. And the 6th region, like Dr. Garvey and Melvin Foote always say, it was a paper. It was on paper. But guess what? It's going to take me and you and our country's leaders to make that 6th region a reality. It's not going to happen on paper alone. You are now talking about the Africa Free Trade Act, which once enacted is going to be the largest free trade zone in the world. Do you want to tell me that we are going to still be chasing after begging? And I will end by saying this. You cannot be sitting on gold and begging for gold. Let me say that again. You heard me list all of your phone that you use. Where did that come from? It's from the continent. They talk about crude oil. Where is that coming from? You're talking about bauxite. Where's that coming from? And even mathematics, where did it come from? So ladies and gentlemen, my sisters and brothers, and as I told my sister Mel, I said, Cambridge will never invite me again. But it's all right, as we say in the hood. It ain't matter. It doesn't matter, bro. It doesn't matter. Because I'm telling you, this is my home. These are my people. This is our country. This is our Cambridge. They said there are about 31,000 people, but guess what? We are 31,000 angels ready and able for resistance. Not resistance in the negative way, but resistance to show the world that we are people too. I yield back and I thank you very much.
Can we give him another round of applause? Thank you. I just want Is that better? Okay. I just want to reiterate what the ambassador said in terms of understanding the importance of American history, Sierra Leone's history to American history. You know, we all focus on Liberia. Everybody knows about Liberia and that connection to American and African American history. You've heard some of the many connections between Africa, between Sierra Leone and African Americans from Ambassador Y, the Nova Scotians, Sengbe Pierre. Then we have the ties with the Gullah, Bunce Island, from which many African Americans were taken in Sierra Leone. So I just want to reiterate that. I'm also going to do a bit of self-promotion, shameless self-promotion, because Melvin makes me, to tell you that if you want to learn more about those ties, you can read my book, African Americans in Africa, Links in History, where I outline and speak to much of what the ambassador has talked about with respect to understanding ourselves as one people. Yes. And you can get them outside in the vendor square. But let's move on. We're not here about me to the panel discussion, where we will have a few people say a few words. And the first person I have is Stanley Strutter. Is Stanley here in person, or is he on Zoom? Okay, Stanley is on Zoom, and Stanley is the chair of the African Caribbean Business Council in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And he's going to talk about ideas and recommendations for strengthening ties between Cambridge, Maryland, and Sierra Leone. So Mr. Strutter.
Hello? I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Can everyone see this? Okay, yes.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you please
Make sure I switch
pull
the
your
links.
webcam a little bit lower?
Is that better?
Looks great, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation to be here. I want to thank Adrian and CFA, of course, and recognize my my leader, the great Dr. Julius Garvey. And I want to give my regards to His Excellency the Ambassador for being a part of this wonderful program today. Philadelphia is, in addition to being a historic city with the George Washington and the independence, Philadelphia has a large population of Africans, African Americans, Caribbean immigrants, and we have kind of taken advantage of those things and have them enshrined in our city government. One of the first commissions on African and Caribbean immigrant affairs was founded here in Philadelphia in 2005 by former Councilwoman Janie L. Blackwell. And that commission has gone on to consistently work with a number of African cities and countries. But I would be remiss if I didn't share with you the great leader that we have all appreciated and worked with is the late Reverend Leone Sullivan. Reverend Sullivan, of course, back in the 60s and 70s, before many of us thought about these kind of collaborations and work, have begun doing this work. And I'm blessed, and Mel, of course, many of you are blessed to have the opportunity to work with him. And in 1972, 73, Reverend Sullivan founded the OIC International Program, modeled after the Peace Corps, by the way, where he took African Americans and others to work on the continent of Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, even Eastern Europe. And the OIC program was designed to help provide skills, education, vocational training, and we have OIC centers in Sierra Leone. We have one in the capital city, Freetown. I think we also have one in Bo, which is an ag program, and so those programs are still operating on their own, even though they initially were funded by the United States Agency for International Development and private sector interest. But those training centers in Sierra Leone are still going on, and we have them across 17 countries. Reverend Sullivan also should be noted for the work he did in founding the great and legendary African American summits. Those summits were started in the 80s, and he was the only civilian person I know that could convene 15, 20 African heads of states to come to one meeting, notably what we now refer to as the summits. So as I said, Philadelphia is blessed with having the opportunity to do that. And for my great friend, Dr. Garvey, you know, we have one of the early UNIA operations still here in Philadelphia from the very early days of the UNIA ACL movement. So the foundation upon which we have built these relationships with African countries and Caribbean countries was already laid long before I got to the table. And what we are now doing, we have something called sister cities, and we also have something called partnership cities and MOUs with cities. The major sister city we have, it was Douala, Cameroon. That was developed in 1984 by the late great Congressman William H. Gray III. Through our sister city relationship, we have programs with the colleges and universities. We have a program with the court system. The organization in Cameroon is called ENAM. It's an elite training institution that trains their legal and administrative staff. And Philadelphia has a program with ENAM to help provide internships and opportunities for jurists trained in Cameroon to come and spend 2-3 weeks here with us, okay? We also most recently have developing a COVID-19 program with Temple University around training and education. We have a program with Drexel University where we're working with Cameroon and the hospital administrative and engineering staff with them. So many of these things that can be, I would recommend that for Sierra Leone in particular to look at. I think one of the great Biden leaders from Sierra Leone went to Lincoln University right here in Pennsylvania also. So we have that linkage also. So the idea of education, cultural exchanges is very easy to do. It just takes some leadership in your community. And I think what we have been able to do in Philadelphia is through to having a mayor's commission on African Caribbean immigrant affairs. We have subcommittees that deal with education. We have culture, business, and as a result, I'm the chairman of the African Caribbean Business Council, Greater Philadelphia, and we continue to work with cities across Africa and the Caribbean. Let me just say also in reference to our global engagement with the African diaspora, we have a significant project that we've done with Salvador Bahia in Brazil. Over the last decade, we have hosted an education conference that was in Philadelphia, Salvador Bahia, and also in Ocean State, Nigeria. I think Mel was at one of the programs we did in Ocean State, Nigeria, and this is the Cultural Educational Exchange Program. And we're still promoting those linkages as we move forward now. So let me just stop there and see if anybody has any questions, and I'd be more than willing to answer them and to offer our assistance in any way we can to help Cambridge. Let me just close by one more thing. You know, the great thing that we're missing out on overall, meaning people of African descent here, is tourism. In Philadelphia, tourism is a $10.3 billion industry, employs over 130,000 people. We have Chinatown, we have the Italian Village, and we even have a gay village in Philadelphia, and all those attractions bring tourists and tourist dollars. So about 5 years ago with Council Lady Janie Blackwell, we began to envision and design an Africa Town destination. We have something in the southwest part of Philadelphia. It's called Little Africa, and the French press, the British press have come. So we found and received several $1 million to begin to implement Africa Town. It's not something we made, it's where a large aggregation of African and Caribbean people from all over the diaspora have gone to move. They have businesses there, over nearly 1,000 African and Caribbean businesses, retail businesses. So we have received some money to do the research study. I was able to engage the great Dr. Malefi Kete Asante, the chair of the School of African Africology and African American Studies at Temple University, to help us. We have about 5 of his staff that are working with us on this project to actually create Africa Town as a global tourist destination for the African diaspora and those that want to attend. People may be coming here to see George Washington, Betsy Ross, but for Black people, we have different kind of things for them to see. I mean, for Africans, let's say, I mean, George Washington House is irrelevant. I mean, why would they want to go and see the house of the first president of the United States that was a slave holder? He held over 300 slaves, and he manipulated those slaves to keep them enslaved. Or I should say the great signers and designers of the Declaration of Independence, like Thomas Jefferson, who would come to see it. The guy was a rapist. He raped a 16-year-old girl, had children by her, didn't free his slaves until much later in his life, but he is revered by Europeans as a great founder of this democracy. But at the same time they were doing that, we have much history of African and people of African descent that helped to work to free not only this country, but fought in almost every war. And we have remnants of that. And I think Adrian and the team, we will begin an industry of how to write the history of this nation and ultimately the world. And those scholars like you guys and His Excellency the Ambassador, as he just spoke wonderfully, can help us write this history and put this right. So I think we have a great opportunity not only to develop the tourism around America, but also to write the history and rewrite those history books, and people will come to see some of the other wonderful things in the United States of America that we have wondered about, we need to know more about, and we'll be able to do more research about. So let me stop there and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Look forward to visiting Cambridge very soon. And we hope to see you guys in Philadelphia. Visit our Africa town, the wonderful restaurants, and history, that rich history we have here also. So thank you.
Oh, are we taking questions now? Or are we just going to go straight through and have people ask questions at the end? I don't. Yeah, so wait till the end for that? Yes, I think so too. All right. So thank you very much, Mr. Strater. Can I make a plug for Richard Allen as you highlight African heritage in Philadelphia? Thank you very much. So our next speaker, is I think also virtual, and he is the co-founder of One Africa Properties International. He's a realtor, an Africa travel coordinator, an author, and a philanthropist. Prince Dynast Abefe Adewale Amir of Omo Oba of Orurowa, Nigeria, Olushe Afara, will be speaking on bridging the gap between Africa and her diaspora. Prince Dynast.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me, Mr. Foote. Thank you for having me. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. Thank you for having me, Ambassador Sadiq. Thank you for joining us. Actually, I am what they consider the new Creole. So I was able to receive my Sierra Leonean citizenship back in this past January 5th, 2021, via DNA. So that's a new program that Sierra Leone has implemented for those of the diaspora via African ancestry. If you're able to, when you take your DNA test through African ancestry, and if your results come back to one of the tribes from Sierra Leone, you're eligible for citizenship. And I had the opportunity to take a group in April. I had several on the tour group who received their citizenship, and another, I believe, ceremony is coming up this November, end of November, early December, and I will be taking another group there as well. I'm a licensed tour operator in Sierra Leone, so I'm, have the opportunity to help those gain their citizenship in Sierra Leone. Like I said, the connection between Black America and Africa is growing every day. I remember I'm a content creator. I have a YouTube page called In Search of Uhuru. And I remember back when I first started posting my content back in like 2012, 2013, I was the only person really on the ground in West Africa posting content. But now there's a lot of Black Americans, and not just Black Americans. You have Caribbeans, Black people from the UK who are now returning to their root, and it's great to see. It wasn't really that popular because of just the I would say stereotypes that have been put out there. The misinformation has been put out there in regards to Africans don't like us. When you get to Africa, the mosquitoes are going to swarm you. You're going to get malaria. People ask me, Dynast, do they have hotels in Africa? What do you eat? Lions and tigers going to come and grab me and eat me. Are they going to come grab me and eat me? How did you get over to that? Do airplanes fly to Africa? So now that people see that airplanes fly to Africa, a lot of people are starting to make that pilgrimage to the continent to reconnect, to make that pilgrimage to build with the people. I felt, me personally, and people, when I first started traveling, they would ask me, how was I received? I'm from Sacramento, California, born and raised. I went to the University of Georgia on a football and track scholarship there. Well, football scholarship, I ran track as well. And I tell people, it was easier for me to assimilate in Africa than it was for me to assimilate in the South coming from the West Coast. And I just tell people, like, look, they're ready to receive you. They're ready for you to go home. Now, I'm not saying it's all peaches and cream, that everything is perfect, but I just tell people, I don't understand. We complain about racism here in America, but then we want to go take vacations in Greece. We want to go take vacations in China. Why not Africa? Why not circulate your vacation dollars in Africa? Why not build in Africa? Why not establish industry in Africa? Because from my experience, the locals on the ground will much more do business with us than with anybody else. But it's up to us to take that initiative and make that jump and stop stalling and go and build. But I just want to really acknowledge and praise Sierra Leone for what they're doing. No other African country has announced and is allowing those who can trace their DNA back to Sierra Leone the opportunity to gain citizenship. Because that's also been a question as well. Well, how do I get citizenship? Sierra Leone has laid the groundwork to make that a reality. But then the question becomes, okay, you have your citizenship. How are you going to contribute and help build on the continent once you're on the ground, once you're given the rights, like President Bio says? He says, you now have access to this beautiful coastline like every other citizen of Sierra Leone. So what are you going to do with these opportunities now? And I think that right there is somewhat of the missing space in regards to really engaging Africa. Yes, we go, we visit, we go to the slave castles, we talk about the stories in regards to how we were kidnapped, our ancestors were kidnapped and shipped to America to build America and build the West. And then we talk about how we build America. But now, the focus should be on building the continent, because, I just got back from Nigeria and I'm starting to see more non-Black faces on that plane headed to Nigeria. I remember the first time I went to West Africa, I went to Senegal, and I didn't see not one non-Black face on that plane. Now, oh man, I mean, when it comes to Europeans, Chinese, Lebanese, they're all heading over to get their piece of the African I would say African pie. And what we have to realize is the diaspora is Africa is your birthright, but at the same time, it's up to you to go back and claim it and build that bridge, because you have individuals like Mr. Foote, Mr. Garvey, Mr. Schroeder, who laid the foundation before us. So now it's time to tap into that and start going over to build and contribute. We could sit here and complain. One of the complaints when I'm encouraging my Black American friends to consider Africa is, well, the Chinese over there, the Lebanese, this group of people over there. Well, I'm just like, well, how are you going to let another group of people determine what you want to do? What do you want to do? So, the opportunity is there. The groundwork is there. It's been laid. There's still a lot of more work to be done. And, I'm excited to see more of the diaspora go over and claim their birthright, and rightfully so. So I'm free to take any questions, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Prince Samir. We'll have questions at the end, so please keep your questions for Dinus. And our next speaker, I think, is here. Oh, great. So Ms. Fatmata Korma Bangura, who's the cultural ambassador for Sierra Leone, will come up and share some words with us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Mr. Melford. I am completely honored for your invitation and what you've done for me. And thank you, Ambassador Y. Thank you for being here, all your work that you've done in the United States and accepting the offered opportunity to come in and helping our diaspora, helping our community, and even Sierra Leoneans that are here from Africa living here. So also Ms. Adrienne Holmes, pleasure meeting you. It's been awesome. I feel like just talking to you, we're on the same wavelength of thinking and platform. It's been an honor, and people of Cambridge. I was here yesterday. I wasn't able to be at the dinner in the evening at the Hyatt, but I was able to come bring some fashions directly from Sierra Leone, which we'll get to experience that later in the evening. So you'll see some of the culture attire that with Sierra Leone and sometimes integrated with some West Africa, with some of the native traditional outfits. And thank you also, Dr. Blyden. So, well, I'm here today. I want to tell you a little bit of history of myself. Like Dr. Blyden, so I'm a little bit different. Both of my parents are from Sierra Leone. My maiden name is Karoma. My husband is a Bangura, and he's from Guinea, West Africa. So I think I'm considered a second generation because my parents have been here since the 70s, and they are they're immigrants, but they've had their citizenships too. So I'm second generation. So I'm along the lines of Dr. Blyden, born and raised, grew up in the United States. My father retired, and he decided to, a couple of years back, to go live in Sierra Leone. So he's back and forth right now. And that's when I pretty much started to go. And I decided I wanted to really, even though I grew up in a Sierra Leonean home, so I understand lots of the cultures and foods and everything about that, but never really. And my mother took me when I was 11 years old. So I was familiar with the continent at a very early age. At least one time she was able to take me. So in this past April, I gave my daughter, who's 15, and my niece, who's 17, I gave them the opportunity to experience Africa. I think it's very, very important. I know that, well, they gave me a hard time, but I know that in the future, that they're going to look back and they're going to appreciate that, because I know I did appreciate my mother taking me back to experience Africa. Those are memories I could never forget at that age. I've been working in the Sierra Leone community for many years, over 11 years, been with different community activist organizations regarding entertainment, things like that, media. So I've done a lot of that in the past. I've also, and this is a record with Sierra Leone organization. I've been with their music organizations and entertainment organizations. Then in 2013, I published a magazine, Couche magazine, online magazine. It's called Couche. So if you look it up online, I know I'm in the pamphlets. You can, couchemagazine.com, you can see some of the work that we have done and doing write-ups of significant people who've done great things in the community in the United States and in Africa. So I have been going back and forth to Sierra Leone since around 2010, working with the community there. I host a show called Celebrity Health Talk, which I played on TV, national TV in Sierra Leone for maybe 6 months. So, and the magazine is also there, registered there, but we also, so basically, and then currently, I am in a venture called Taste of Sierra Leone Culture and Fashion. So, and I was able to go, I was also there. I've been going twice a year because luckily my family, they definitely paved the path for me to be there. So my father gave me and my siblings a home, so we're able to go anytime we want to. So I go there twice a year right now. So I was there like 2019, and then last year I was there in December, then I was there in April. And I was able to put on also a 60th anniversary celebration where I honored the mayor of Freetown. I partnered up with a university, an international university called Immigrant University, a prominent prestigious university located in United Kingdom and different parts of Africa. So I was able to partner up with them, with some of their instructors and the students, and put on a fabulous show there. We honored the mayor of Freetown. We worked with her, and we want it to be an ongoing partnership. So I think every April we'll be able to do that, make it like a festival where we have the food, the clothes, the cultures, the talent. So we want to engage the youth. Also, I've been working with the youth for since I've started, you know, and so I love the youth. And yes, like the ambassador said, they're a prominent force in the United States. They probably even determine the elections because there's so many of them in Africa, not only in Sierra Leone, but also in Africa. So I always engage the youth. I work a lot with the youth. I also do a pageant called Miss Culture Pageant. Miss Culture USA, which I work with young ladies from different parts of Africa also. So I've done for the past 11 years, I think, out of my own funding. I have given not only to Sierra Leone, but also to different African countries. I've worked with the former ambassador, Arikana Chiombi Kwao. I've worked with her directly where we put on a Miss African Union when she was ambassador a couple years ago of African Union. So I've worked directly with her, and a team of us work together. So those are the kinds of things and I've done for Sierra Leone and African community. And I will also, like everyone, like the gentleman back there with Dynas too. I worked a little bit with Dynas. I will be conducting tours to the Sierra Leone starting next year. Be doing tours and sending people who are interested. Just want to visit, like Dynas says, you know, people go to everywhere in the world, but why don't we go and visit Africa? Why is more, especially we as diasporians, African descent, why don't we, you know, people don't, that's not the first thing that comes to mind. You know, I want to go on vacation. Africa is beautiful. I mean, Sierra Leone itself has gorgeous beaches that you can have fun in. So I just want to make that an opportunity for people that are around me, that surround me, to be able to really go. That's my dream, to go to Sierra Leone and just have fun and know your culture. It's a blessing, you know, to know who you are, you know. It's like a missing part of you. I know Adrian and I talked about that. That's a part of it that you definitely have to. Because I was raised here also, so I know that we're really not taught to, even though I came from an African home, when I go to school and dealt with the community, we're just not taught to love Africa, or who we are, or learn about it. A lot of the literature, everything that African Americans has done, Africa is not in school. We don't learn about it. So I think that is a very important part. So I love fashion. You know, I've always been in that. So when I go there, so definitely you're going to be seeing some of attires and customary attires of Sierra Leone later on this evening. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bangura. Kusha is a very versatile word in the Creole language. It can mean welcome, it can be used to chastise, but it also means well done. So Kusha, Ms. Bangura. The next speaker is also here, I believe. Is Ms. Kamara here? Okay, good. All right, so I will be introducing Ms. Sia Barbara Ferguson Kamara, who is the Chief Strategy Officer of the DC Early Learning Collaborative. Ms. Kamara retired in 2008 after 21 years as administrator of the District of Columbia's Department of Human Services, Office of the State Superintendent of Education, Early Care, and Education Administration. She served 4 mayors in Washington, D.C. President Jimmy Carter appointed her Associate Commissioner in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services with responsibility for the National Head Start Program, the Appalachian Regional Commission Child Development Programs, Child Care Regulations, Research and Demonstration Programs. She managed a $1 billion budget. Between 2010 and 2020, Ms. Kamara was an international early childhood systems consultant with the Open Societies Foundation's Early Childhood Program in London and the Ministry of Education in Liberia. In the work that she did in Liberia, she co-developed national curriculum for preschool teachers, assisted 6 colleges in establishing early childhood departments, facilitated 24 Liberians to obtain early childhood master's degrees, and assisted in obtaining grants totaling $16 million for training early childhood professionals, printing curriculum, and piloting a program to produce fees for preschool in public schools. A 1959 graduate of Williston Senior High School in her hometown of Wilmington, North Carolina, Ms. Kamara was a 2-year Peace Corps volunteer in Liberia. In 2012, she received the prestigious Peace Corps Franklin H. Williams Award for Distinguished Service. Ms. Kamara holds a BS in Mathematics and Economics from Johnson C. Smith University and an MS from Bank Street College in New York. Among her selected honors, awards, and memberships is that she's a 2019 Embassy of Liberia honoree. She's a board member of DC Early Learning Collaborative, and she's a member of Friends of Liberia. So please welcome Ms. Fia Barbara Ferguson Kamara. Oh, no, she's gonna sit right there. Great, she's gonna sit right there. Sure. She's not here? Oh, okay. Oh. No? She's not here? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So, so it appears Ms. Kamara is not here right now. She may come and we will have her speak, but we will move on to Shirley Smith. She's coming? Oh, all right. Okay, she's coming. All right. Have Shirley, so is Shirley here in person or is she virtual?
Shirley Smith is virtual.
She's virtual? Okay. Is this Ms. Kamara?
No.
Oh, no. Okay. So we will.
Shirley Smith isn't here, right? Yeah, she's virtual.
She's virtual. All right. So we will switch until Ms. Kamara comes, if she does, and welcome Shirley Smith from the U.S. Africa Sister Cities Association. And I believe Ms. Smith is online. Is that right? Is Shirley online?
Is Shirley Smith under Fred Smith?
Any luck with Ms. Kamara? No?
Oh, not yet. Apparently,
Okay, all right, so then we can, what I think we'll do then is take some questions.
Yeah.
While we're waiting, if Ms. Kamara comes, or if Shirley Smith logs on. So we will have you ask questions to any of the speakers. The ambassador, I'm assuming, will be back in a minute. And so if
anyone has
if we have any
you could
questions.
just stand forward. There's a marker on the floor. You would just stand forward to the front and we would put you on the Zoom to be seen as well. There are no questions from the floor.
No, don't be shy. I was gonna say, don't be shy. There's a young man back there. Come on. Oh, you just marked that for Zoom questions? How will we know if they'll put their hands up here? Those who are on Zoom can put your hands up. There's a raise hand
Yes, they
function.
can raise hand.
And we will get you from Zoom.
So my question is is Mr. Slaughter still on stand? Because I was
Yes, I'm
really
still here.
interested about Africatown. First of all, I'm from Philadelphia, so right, shout out to Philly. And one of the things that we see here in Cambridge is an uptick in tourism. And so I just think I would like to explore that combination as we're growing in tourism, how we can kind of learn from, the steps you all have in place to, control that narrative for Africatown and what it looks like and how you develop that, how we create this infrastructure for tourism and that we control that and we guide people through, whatever the narrative is that you have in place.
Let me, no problem. First and foremost, we'll certainly be happy to invite you to come up and just to tour with us, and you can see the assets that we already have that are operating in the city. What we have been able to do, a lot of the African and Caribbean entrepreneurs have already invested in this community without any help historically from the state or the city or the federal government. What we've been able to do by recognizing their investment and their business and community and the taxes that they pay is to build on that to say that we can certainly explore how to make this a destination point. And I think overall the government and our tourist people have failed to recognize the wonderful assets and these Africans and Caribbean and these immigrant communities that we have in Philadelphia and across the country. Number one. I think the number two thing that has helped us is the recognition from our elected officials now. We now have a mayor's commission on African Caribbean immigrant affairs. We went to our city council and our mayor to talk about the need to have this recognition. We have an Asian immigrant committee. We have one for the Latina and Hispanic, but we never had anyone for Black immigrants. And so just the mere absence of it raised the question, well, why don't we have it? And we now have it since, as I said, about 2005. But out of that, we have a great community of people, African-American immigrants and Caribbean immigrants have come together to continue to promote this. Not as much as I would like, but I'm 80 years old now, and I'm happy to see some of you young people like yourself up there writing here. I'm with Dr. Julius Garvey. We've been waiting for y'all, So y'all got all the power, you got the juice, you could do all the election there, and you got to, as Prince pointed out, y'all got all the juice, and you're not coming fast enough for me to get it done. But I'm happy to see people, the community that you have there, and Adrian and Prince and Mel Foote, who's been doing this for a lifetime for many of us. So we are at a new day, and I think by virtue of having your city government, and I was great to see your mayor there, Adrian, because it's going to work, all of you together working it to make it happen. And at the end of the day, tourism is a business. We have some of the fastest growing industries around the world is tourism, especially on the continent of Africa and of course here in the United States. And by the way, once you do the little research, you'll find out that Black tourists and visitors spend more per capita than other tourists. So you got a whole lot of economic reasons to be looking at this as a viable option. And then, of course, on the education side, which has been important for while universities, as we implied earlier, there was a time when Africans were trying to come to the United States to get education, and the only places they could go before they get into Harvard and Yale, the only place they can go get education was in the HBCUs. And while that have created a legacy for us, they are, in fact, many of them are paying their own tuition, and that's what we call full-time equivalents. They're paying bills and bringing money to these communities and to the universities. So we have a lot that we can continue to build on. And I'd certainly love to have you come to Philadelphia. We'll make a trip to get you up here to see the other things that we're doing. So thank you for raising that question.
My name is Sheikna, and this question is for anyone on the panel as well, Mr. Ambassador. I'm actually from Africa. I'm from Mali, Africa, Western Africa. And my question was, generally speaking, we don't really have any type of education for the youth as far as African history. And a lot of times you get, well, I'm not from Africa, I'm from America, but your ancestry is from Africa. So I was wondering what you guys would suggest to be able to further provide some thought, some type of learning about the ancestry that they come from. Thank you.
Well, let me quickly say, and I'll let I hope His Excellency the Ambassador could speak to this too, because he gave some remarks that were relevant to this.
Stan, is somebody's responding to the young man's question?
Yeah. I was going to say, Mel, that one of the things that we have done, we failed to educate ourselves about Africa. And as I said, being 80, I certainly apologize for that. There's no university that you can go to in the United States and get a PhD in African economics, but you can go to almost anyone and get a PhD in European economics. So you have to deal with the reality of systemic racism. The good thing is that I said earlier, many of the young people are doing it. You can go right there in the greater Washington area to Dr. Gina Page in African ancestry and do the research on your DNA. That's, I think Prince mentioned earlier. You can go to Howard University now and some of the HBCUs that are beginning to specialize in the history of this. So there things are happening to change this earlier paradigm and to educate all of us, especially at this time of the 1619 Project and many things that are taking place and this younger generation. So that I just share that with you to give you some thought. Mel? Mel?
To engage with educating our youth about their history, both African and African-American history. Yeah, I'll say that.
And the internet too.
Yep.
I mean, you can do your own research. And our university is a lot of those, a lot of the 1619 Project also there. So a lot of information online.
And we're writing about it. Go ahead, Mel.
Okay, I got two questions. One question is, I see a lot of African Americans who have become enamored about Africa, but they're 55, 60 years old. They've never been to Africa. Now I'm excited they put on an Africa shirt. You know, what advice does Dinah Amir have for African Americans, say, who are beyond of age? Like, I went to Africa as a 22-year-old Peace Corps volunteer. All right, I learned a lot of stuff. But now if you go to Africa, you're 55 years old, you go to, where's the McDonald's? No McDonald's. What advice do you have for older African Americans who are now enamored with Africa? And the second question is, I've seen a lot of sister city programs in my work. Everybody got a sister city program. Then you try to examine the sister city program, and what is it? You know, it's a 1 year kind of effort, and maybe somebody go over there on a tourist vacation, and that's the end of it. What advice do the speakers have for strengthening a creative sister city program, say between Cambridge and Freetown, that can have some bite to it? What advice do you have?
Okay, to respond.
All right, so as far as the first question in regards to, you know, individuals in their 50s who, you know, they put on the African outfit, they're like, yeah, I want to go to Africa, but where do I get started? Like, pick a country and go. You know, I think a lot of times we over complicate going to Africa. So I'm headed to Senegal week after next, and from New York, you could fly direct to Dakar on Delta and now Air Senegal. Is a 7-hour flight. To get to in the I guess the objection sometimes is, well, I'm on the airplane too long. But you've been to Europe, you've been to Central America, you've been to South America, and traveling to anywhere in Europe from America is going to be a 7 or 8 hour flight. So the flight distance is the same. Also, you shouldn't be eating McDonald's anyway. So if you're 55 eating McDonald's, put that Big Mac down anyway. You shouldn't be eating that crap anyway. Because a lot of, unfortunately, another objection I get is, well, Dinas, you know, what about my diabetes medicine? What about my high blood pressure medicine? You know, do they have that in Africa? How can I get that in Africa? This medicine, that medicine. It's just showing that, you know, we're just unhealthy people, for, you know, because of this American diet, eating McDonald's. So in Africa, everything is fresh. Fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. I mean, food is killed right in front of you, fresh chicken. I mean, fresh everything. Everything is fresh. So, you know, if you're into a holistic diet, if you're trying to eat healthy on a budget as well, you know, here in America, you know, it's done by design. A Big Mac costs less in the hood than organic, you know, strawberries. It's done by design. Versus Africa, I mean, the stuff's all over. The organic food is all over the place, and it's dirt cheap. I was in Nigeria last week, and literally we bought like 20 oranges for like $4 or $3, something crazy. So it's more affordable. Also, you're in your 50s, you got your Social Security coming. Some of you guys are retired. That money stretches a whole lot further in Africa than here in America. You know, they're saying now that if you're making minimum wage anywhere in America, you can't afford an apartment. If you're, you know, here in Atlanta, I mean, you're being pretty much priced out of everything now. And when I was in corporate America, I had a great job. But now with the money I was making in corporate America, you know, I wouldn't be able to afford the house that I bought here in Atlanta right now, more than likely. So it's just the inflation, healthier foods, direct flights. I mean, it's the beauty, the nature, the people. You don't have to worry about racism. I mean, it's just the advantages. I mean, it's pointing to Africa. The tour I did to Sierra Leone back in April, I took a retired couple. In their 50s, in their 60s, took them to Sierra Leone. They now moved to Gambia. They sold their house in Atlanta, moved to Gambia. And I'm seeing more of that. A lot of these older retirees are going to Gambia because it's a stress-free life. You know, your retirement goes a whole lot further, better food. You can live a healthier lifestyle. And then, like I said, again, you have direct flights from America to Africa, so it's easier to travel to Africa now. We have to demystify, because we make it so difficult in our head that to get to Africa is just a hard process. No, it's simple. You just, even some countries, if you have a American passport, if you have an American passport, you don't need a visa, or you get visa on arrival, i.e. Sierra Leone, Senegal, Gambia, just to name a few, where you get visa on arrival, just hop on a plane and show up. So, like I tell people, let's not overcomplicate it. Pick a country and just go. I hope that helps.
Is the mic still open?
I was waiting for them to accept the ambassador's hand, but they didn't pick it up yet. The moderator's not picking up his hand. Mr. Foot, can you tell him that the ambassador's waiting to speak?
Oh, you were talking to me.
Mm-hmm. The host hasn't stopped yet.
Under which name?
Urban Vision Works. I raised his hand.
Is you good?
He hasn't started yet.
I'm a little confused here. All the Urban Vision Works are here.
One of them, the hand is raised. The ambassador is trying to speak.
Yeah, it's unmuted.
It says the host has stopped. I'm not sure why I won't let us on. Tell him it says the host has stopped. You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Yeah, Bill, what do you need?
The video, he needs to start. Hi, it says the host has stopped.
I'm not sure.
The video is off.
The video is off.
Yeah, we said start video and it says you cannot start your video because the host is, okay. Thank you. Video came out.
Yeah, okay.
They can see, you just can't see yourself.
Okay. I actually want to thank Brother Slaughter, Stanley Slaughter, and the Nas Tamir. I think they have really said a lot that I wanted to say.
Thank you.
I think from the perspective of where they have been and where they continue to be, they do their research, they are on the ground, they see these things, they interact with people, they talk to the natives. It's not just doing internet research. So their experiences on the ground is quite different from what you read on social media and things of that nature. I think I have to, if you all want me to be honest, I'm going to be honest here because that's the only way I know how to do this. Africa is 54 countries, over 1 billion people. Those 54 countries each have their own heads of state. They have their own rules. They have their own governments. They have their own people. It's not like United States, you could jump on an Amtrak and leave here from New York and go. It's not like that. For you to go into those countries, there are some countries, even in Africa, you need a visa to go. It's not every country in Africa that you could leave and just go like we do here. And let me also give you another statistic. In this country today, our numbers have increased. Today, conservatively, there are 8.5 Africans born in Africa right here. In this country. I'm sure there are Africans from the continent right here in Cambridge. The Africans, the remittances that the diaspora Africans give to their countries is more than any foreign aid any country gives to Africa. Nigeria alone gives billions of dollars, send billions of dollars to their people. How do you do it? You send the monies that we send to families and support the extended family. So when people are talking about Africa, don't think it's like here. There are 54 countries. Let me tell you what you hear a lot of people going to Senegal. You know what Abdoulaye Wade, during the time he was in office, said? He said, people take tons of people, they go look at the passage, they cry, and they come back. And after that, like Mel always says, nothing happens. They just went on a tour and then came back. My country today, Sierra Leone, has a development project for the construction of a bridge, a 6-mile bridge, almost up to maybe $2.5 billion. I haven't seen anybody come to my office and say, we have a bunch of engineers, we have money, we want to go work with your country. And let me tell you this, our countries are looking to providing opportunities to people of color. This is not a joke, but you can't be talking about it. Let's look at America. I've lived there for 40 years. Yeah, African-American billionaires in this country. There, you go to the sports sections, people in Hollywood. You want to tell me these people can't pull their resources together to involve in infrastructure? Every country in Africa, that is their priority. They want infrastructure developed. You're talking about the telephone company. We have 3 telephone companies in Sierra Leone, a country of 7.5 million people. Did anybody say, hey, wait a minute, I want to get a little bit, let's pull our resources together and open a telephone company. You will get the license to compete there. But you can't. The elder people, because that's, let me, because if I don't answer my leader's question, I'm not going to have any rest, so I better get to that. Mel says, what do you tell the older Africans, Americans, about what to expect when they go to Africa in Sierra Leone? I'm talking about my country. Don't believe everything you read on social media. I used to throw the joke, my country is perhaps the only country in the world that have 7.5 million journalists, because everybody is a journalist today. And almost a majority of what you read on social media is not what is happening on the ground. People tell you, oh, they are shooting people, they are killing people, the wars are happening. You go to traveling companies, why they are telling you don't come, but the guys are getting on the planes, going there to do business. Didn't they read the same social media? But they don't care about social media. They care about the opportunities. When I went home in March, I was in a hotel. I could not believe I was in Sierra Leone. Almost in that hotel, almost 90% of the occupants of that hotel, we are our cousins. Why are they there? They are not there because they're going on vacation. They're there because they're looking for opportunities. So my recommendation, and that's just one thing that Mel, even Dr. Julius Garvey has been saying, we'll be saying this, I think it's like a broken record now. We, the people of color, have no excuse to say those Africans. We don't have that excuse anymore. United States is the only country on this planet where every language in Africa is spoken here. Everybody that has come from North, East, West, Central, they live here. This is the place we have the opportunity to sit and dialogue and plan and do something together. But what is not going to happen is you can't keep talking about it. And the reality is also, not everybody has money. But if you want to raise $10, I could, of course, my sister Bangura, the beauty person. Hey, she does a fashion show. And they bring so many clothes together, right? Why is she doing that? Because she wants a market to expand to many people. That is the thinking we who don't have it all need to understand. We need to pull our resources together. And perhaps those who have it and people like social leaders like the Mel Foots, the Adrian Holmes, who have vision, who have ideas. Not everybody's going to be a leader. Let's be real about that. Or just because somebody's doing it doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it. Those of us who are in the movement and you activists, you know exactly what I'm saying. You start something today, it starts working, and somebody else is going to come and start the same thing rather than joining and working together. So we have this mentality, oh, come join me. What are we going to start talking about? Let's do it together. Right. Yeah. I get people coming to my office every single day. This one will come, I have access to $10 billion to invest in your country. I said, I look at them, I said, I don't even know how to count $10 billion. And it is what also happens, I'm telling you the truth now, what we experience. People will come in with proposals that they have this project, but guess what? They don't own the project. It's somebody else. They are the front person for that individual. So when you start digging to find out whether this is for real, and they say, okay, well, let's get on Zoom. I have seen people who just went on the internet and found somebody on the internet, don't know that person's background, and invested in real estate. How do you invest in real estate with somebody you've never seen? And when they lose their money, they come and, oh, that country is corrupt. Mm-hmm. Corruption takes two people. The one receiving and the person corrupting that person. So I am hopeful. And even now, this is the city. This is a very, very important thing. We have had a lot of sister cities. You know, my brother Mel was telling me earlier. He says, you have a whole bunch of these sister cities, but nothing happened. I would rather have Cambridge. Let me repeat. I would rather have a pragmatic, realistic, doable projects in Cambridge and come to the office and say, this is what we are able to do. I will find you communities in Sierra Leone. I'm not talking in Africa now. In Sierra Leone, who we want to work with you and to make those sister cities happen. Not that sometimes it's a question of funding. Sometimes it's a question of training. Sometimes it's a question of exchanging ideas. And then AGOA, which people like Melfoot and others worked on AGOA, do you know that there are a lot of African countries today have not fulfilled their quota at all? In other words, you as a manufacturer, you could go to those countries, invest your money, manufacture stuff, bring them back into this country and compete. It's duty free. Let me end. Africa could no longer be, there's no romanticism anymore. Let's don't glorify, let's don't romanticize. The way you learn is by experience. I know it's not everybody that is going to be able to go to Africa or to pick a country to go to. But if you came together as a group, 50, 60, you could strategically negotiate with an airline. If the price is $1,000, say, hey, we got 60 people who want to go to this country, and this is what we are paying for the ticket. You better believe it. The airlines are suffering now. they are bleeding. They want your money. So the theme about everything I'm saying here is, I'll go back to what I said from the beginning. You cannot be sitting on gold, begging for gold. Can I hear you say that again? You repeat after me. You cannot be sitting on gold and begging for gold. Let's say that together. You cannot be sitting on gold begging for gold. I thank you.
We have someone called Forrest Branch on Zoom who would like to ask a question. Mr. Branch or Miss?
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the committee for putting this together and for my former boss, Mel Foote. I'd like to point out something quickly. Number one, there's two sides to this equation. When it comes to investing anything in any country in sub-Saharan Africa, number one has to be a compelling value proposition. After that, there has to be a sense that the investor is entering an environment where the risk is well managed. For the audience that you have today, the question to the ambassador would be, respectfully, sir, for people that want to invest anywhere from $10,000 up to $1 million, there are probably different portfolios that they could invest in within 30, 60, or 90 days. If the investment horizon was 1 million to 5 million, there would be fewer projects, but there would still be that window. I don't know the number of kilometers of the Sierra Leonean coast, but I do know that Sierra Leone has the most beautiful beaches in West Africa. I've been in Africa 32 years. I live in the Republic of Namibia. I haven't spent a lot of time in West Africa, but I do know that the other side of that equation really is the government's responsibility to sufficiently market itself. And in doing that, not everybody is coming in at a 2.5 billion, worth of capital to invest. And then finally on that bridge, let me just unpack that investment. To the audience, it's not that the bridge costs 2.5 billion in terms of direct materials. Normally when a large capital project is undertaken, that 2.5 billion, maybe 1.8 billion of that is materials, steel and concrete and that sort of thing, if it's a suspension bridge or a structural bridge. But the opportunities for people that the ambassador was referring to, and I think he makes an excellent point, at least $700 to $800 million of that are just services, structural engineering, electrical engineering, fabrication and testing. There are laboratories in the States where people do materials testing, which could probably render services on that project. Now it becomes, how do we engage? How do we unpack this box? Who do we speak to? And I think that is the responsibility of the government of Sierra Leone or any African government. And the clearer one makes the case, the more attractive they become to the investor. You have 54 countries in Africa, and they are all competing for capital. And the rule of finance is whichever project has the highest return gets the capital. So on the side of the Sierra Leonean government or any African government, it is incumbent upon that government to market itself. Now, I'm just going to throw something out there. We have a huge asset in people like Melvin Foote and the Constituency for Africa, but we know they're limited because they're 501 or 501c3 organizations. They're nonprofits. They're not able to lobby. But I'd like to know, where are the African countries that are using locally based, US-based lobbying companies, predominantly African-American? We have plenty of people in the media to articulate these types of opportunities in Africa. I fly to Congo quite often, and typically I'm the only Black person on the airplane. It's full of people that are on contract for the government of China. So China knows about these opportunities because sometimes our leaders in Africa have a direct line to China. They make sure that some of these projects are marketed to China as a priority, and they're not necessarily marketed in places like the States. Historically, Africa trades with Europe. And so the Europeans are much more in tune with all things related to investment in Africa. The Americans, they tend to invest in Asia and Latin America. And so by default, African Americans being based geographically in America, we do not have the representation on the African continent for a number of reasons. I think we need to get away from the cultural debate about, who likes who and are you going to be well received? Here's the bottom line. When you create value in Africa and you own an asset and it generates cash flow, whether you like Africa or not, you will spend much more time there. And inevitably, your attitude about all things Africa is likely to change. So I would say one of the opportunities that the government has in the next 30 days is to rethink how they market opportunities at levels of between $10,000 and $100,000. That's free cash that people have in their accounts, or could be retirement income. That's an immediate investment. I think of things like tomato processing, which is semi-automated, which is probably a $25,000 investment. What impact that would have in a country of Sierra Leone, which is about maybe 8 or 9 million people. So, and then the other investments, I didn't know anything about the bridge in Sierra Leone, but I do know that that 2.5 billion is probably a range of different opportunities, from material supply to service supply. So I think the more we articulate the value, the opportunity, I think you'll see a lot more people responding, and always make sure in terms of the African government that you carve out a place for the small investor. 80% of employed people in the United States are employed in companies that have less than 10 people. So those kinds of things have to be considered when you're talking about investment and tourism. They all go hand in hand. So that's just a comment that I wanted to make, but I appreciate the ambassador's sentiment. Thank you.
Okay, let me, if you will allow me, I think the gentleman may. First of all, thank you for your comments and thank you for your observations. And thank you for pointing out, trying to break it down. As I sit here now, Sierra Leone has awarded a contract to a Black person to expand our airport. Say by next year, Sierra Leone Airport is going to be one of the best airports in modern day Africa. This is not talk, this is action. Now, when you're building an airport like that, what does that mean? People are going to look for hotels. They have collateral. There are opportunities for hotels. There are opportunities for other businesses to exist there so that they can support that institution. Now, they talk about consultants. Yes, there are African countries, the rich ones, that are hiring consultants, lobbies. Let me give you my observation, my personal experience with some lobbies. A guy came to my office and said, I can help your country. I will do this, I will do that. So very brilliantly, I said, that is wonderful. So I said, take me to your office. I'll come to your office and see your operation. Oh, she said, you can't come. I said, what do you mean I can't come? You want a $50,000 a month business with my country. And I can't come to your office. I said, well, the deal is okay. What he was doing was to source a contract and go to the big boys and girls. He's the middleman. Now, not that there are not credible people here to do that work. He has a not-for-profit organization, Melfoot. He's not a registered lobbyist, but what he does is more than people who are registered. You could pay them $100,000. The question becomes, and I'm speaking not only for myself, but this is what many of my colleagues say, how do we do it? There is a conversation, let us be truthful here, that we need to have with our own brothers and sisters in this country. That conversation has never taken place. When the guys wanted to partition Africa, what did they do? Today you have 5 permanent members of the Security Council. Did they invite you or invite me? No. Black folks, we need to wake up. Let's stop this competition. Let's collaborate. Let's cooperate. And then support the initiatives that you can do. Don't promise the world. Let's sit down and say, if we are going to invest in the infrastructure, people like Mel and others have the brains, they have the resources, they have the contacts. You don't need to create another organization to compete with them. You invest in him. He could bring people together. Look at what Adrian is doing. You don't need to create another organization. Join her and work with her. So, and even the African leaders are saying, we have all these opportunities, but they don't come. I said the other story, I was speaking about the story, but it is real. Somebody who is drowning and 2 big giants are on the coastline, they can save that person. But then the person is swimming, looking for help. Then the other guy, well, I'm not going to call the countries that do this stuff, but I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. So they want to say so the guy said, well, listen to America. He says, oh, wait a minute. Well, we're going to go do a bipartisan stuff. Let me get permission from Congress. When you finish with House of Representatives, you go to Senate, and then you got to come filibuster. It takes so long. In the meantime, that guy is drowning. So what did the Chinese do? He threw the lifeline, come to shore. So tell me, who are you going to look up to? The one that wants to go to Congress to get that passed, and maybe he will take another month. That guy is drowned by the time. So the Chinese threw the lifeline and brought that person to shore. This is what we face today. Africa, believe me, there are many of you here who could become multimillionaires in this country. Don't do it on the internet. If you do it on the internet, you're gonna be like the guy who lost $300,000 and came to me. I lost $300,000 in my country. I said, who did you do business with? He says, well, how did you do business? I found the person in the internet. Did you meet him? He said, no. So you have $300,000 you could give to somebody you never met. There's one thing, I'm not a Republican, I've never been one. I know this is a conservative country, but there's one quotation from Ronald Reagan that I will bring here. Maybe people in Cambridge will not invite me ever again. He said about the Soviets, he said during the arms negotiation, he said, trust, but verify. Trust, but verify. So we, as people of color, we also have now to have this attitude of trusting, but we got to verify too. There's nothing wrong with that. So I can say this as the ambassador of Sierra Leone. My country is open for business. And even my president is going to be here in Washington, D.C. And we have put together an economic development and investment and trade meeting with the president and the top people coming to this country. Let's talk about how do we do this? We're not going to Wall Street. We come into People Street. And once you can talk to people, you ask your questions. And after that question, those questions, if you say you're going to do something, please do it. Because if you don't do it and the country has to run, do you think that leader is going to wait for you to be ready? No. They're going to do business with the person that is ready. A lot of times, maybe it's not our fault. But when you want to do something, you could invest $10,000, $20,000, $100,000. But before you invest that $100,000 or $10,000, please go to my country, spend a couple of $1,000 to go there and be on the ground and talk to real people. If you want to be in the mining industry, go there on a vacation. Go look at the mines. Go talk to people. There was a guy that went to my country that lost $100 million because there were a whole bunch of shady characters that they told him, oh no, you could buy your gold and diamonds and we could put it in a box and go and bribe your way through. Forgetting the fact that this country has rules and regulations. If you're going to be in the mining industry, you need a license. But if you're going to go there and go behind and deal with shady characters, they're going to take your money. So you can't blame the government for that. The government sometimes, in fact, 80 to 90% of the times, they have no clue. There's a guy in Canada right now who spent $200,000 on a wishful dream, and every time he calls the office to say, oh, they took my money. Who took your money? Did you have a contract? No, we were doing it on the internet. Well, let internet be your contract. You can't blame the government responsible for that. Yeah. So let me end by saying, believe me, our countries are willing. They will like nothing better than to do business with their own kind. But let us be serious. We don't have to take the $1 million project. Take the one that you could manage. But before that, doing that, take a trip. Go on a vacation. Look around. Talk to people. And see if this is what you want to do. And believe you me, you will become a millionaire. You know what the Lebanese do in our country? They go to the villages, set up shop. They are not miners, but they set up shop. So anytime those miners want to sell their products, they go to the Lebanese, they exchange it for things like that. And that's how they do it. They don't talk about, oh, this is, I got mosquitoes here, I got that. They're interested. That's why you have Chinese now all over Africa, they're buying land. Well, I want you to buy land in my country. I want you to get the investment opportunities in my country. And for my job as the ambassador, my doors are open to serious investors with a purpose so that we could work and develop our continent and our people here together. I yield back. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, I would like to know.
Can I add to that? Is that okay?
Excuse me. I would like to know, is Sierra Leone is going to start adapting to cryptocurrency and putting their projects on the blockchain?
Let me tell you, madam. There's still a lot of information on cryptocurrency that some of us, even me, as I sit here, I don't even know much about. There's still a lot to learn. I mean, there are people saying that is the way of the future. But if a small country like my own, which is 7.5 million people, and our economy is trying to build up, we will need to see how it works first, because there was a group of investors that came to me, very highly educated people right here in this country, explaining cryptocurrency. After the presentation for about 2 hours, I'm sorry to say, I had a headache because I walked out of that, I didn't quite understand it. So there's a lot for us to learn about cryptocurrency. It is possible that is the way of the future, but there's a lot more for us to learn. I don't know of too many African countries. Of course, my country is not yet, they haven't gotten there yet. Not that it means they will not get there someday, but right now we are not there yet.
Because my sister and I are both certified as blockchain experts.
See, well, that's good. So she may have to start a school here and start educating a lot of people, because that's a good thing. And but quite frankly, for me personally, I've listened to some presentations. I think it's exciting, but like anything else, you have to wait and see. And that's all I can say.
Before we have another question, can I check to see if Ms. Kamara came back? Is she come back? No? All right.
You have somebody on the line that wanted to say something.
Oh, Mr. Branch, was it Mr. Branch or Dinus?
I was, go ahead, Mr. Branch, deference, and I'll go after you because I was going to respond.
I just had my hand up. Thank you, young man. You are a gentleman. Okay. So I just a quick point. I thank you, Ambassador, for your comments. And I would say this about the reference to Black businesses and capacity issues. There's no such thing as doing business with people because they're Black. That's absolute, that's just not a standard in the world. You do business with people because they have capacity. If they happen to be Black, that's an additional reason. And so that's a deal sweetener. But first of all, the business has to be vetted. The comment about the blockchain technology, so people confuse blockchain and cryptocurrency. Crypto, you are encrypting things to protect privacy. With blockchain secures a transparent kind of a system. And I know that there was an election in Sierra Leone, I think in the last 2 or 3 years, where blockchain technology was applied to ensure that there was transparency in the voting system. So some of these things across Africa we have or do not have control over. I know in Southern Africa, you can pay with an encrypted kind of, with Bitcoin. I think Pick and Pay grocery stores across Southern Africa, which is about 1,500 grocery stores, accepts that as payment. So, you know, Africa is one of the fastest growing fintech, financial technology regions of the world in terms of payment platforms. We have a system in Namibia where you don't even have to use, you never have to use an ATM card to withdraw money. Everything is digitized, what we call the digital wallet system. But I just wanted to make that point, and I thank you, Ambassador, for clarifying some of the risks. But I think if the starting point is that all businesses have to go through a vetting process, and then we can look at the fact that these are African, Caribbean, African American businesses, I think then we can have that conversation, but not without the vetting. Thank you, sir.
Gladys, I think we'll let you have the last word as a panelist, and then we will close. I'll have the CFA chairperson close. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to add to the whole investment, the investment question. We hear, I think what happens is we hear more about the $200,000 fiasco and the guy who lost $3 million fiasco that I think you brought up, Ambassador. A lot of investors hear more about that, and then they're scared to even consider investing in Africa because they focus on those stories but don't know the full story. I think what it's going to take, and me and a buddy of mine in Nigeria, we were just discussing this last week, like literally to get Black people excited about investing in Africa, because you, Mr. George Hamilton, do a great job in regards to engaging Black Americans in the diaspora to invest in Africa. It's literally going to take a Black American to come over, become a millionaire, show his millions of dollars, and say, I made this in Africa. Like, it's just, we like shiny things, we like facts. And I just really think to get everybody to focus, that's what people tell me, like, well, how much money you making? Where's the money? You know, show me the money. That's what I think is gonna take for a Black American to come over, his firm, his business, make $1 million and literally have a briefcase full of $1 million, say, hey, I made this in Africa on the ground. Then I think the floodgates will open. That's just my personal opinion, and that's kind of what I hear on the streets.
Okay, thank you. Can they hear me? I'm good, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let me just thank everyone for coming. Thank our panelists. Especially thank the ambassador for his words today. Before I pass on to Janine, I want to say thank you for having me as moderator. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Patronize the vendors, have some food. And it's starting next month. Okay. So closing remarks. I think people can hear me. So closing remarks will be from the chairperson of the Constituency for Africa, Janine Scott. Janine, are you online?
I'm Marta, how are you? Can you see me well enough there?
Yeah, you're shaded, but we can see you. Maybe turn off that light behind you.
The window. Let me maybe turn this way and see if that helps some.
Much better.
Much better. Actually, I can see myself too. I can see myself before. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us this afternoon, today. It's been a wonderful afternoon, and it has covered such important topics, recognizing the links of Sierra Leone and Cambridge, Maryland, and to the diaspora at large. I think it's really important for us to recognize the ties that bind so many of us in our communities, culturally, historically, economically, and in other ways as well. I think many of you who know of CFA know that we really aim to keep Africa front and center on the thoughts and minds of Americans, including policymakers, civil society, investors, and especially reaching out to young people as the next generation of leaders who we would like to carry this mission forward. It's important for us, I think, to shine lights on the nations and peoples of the African continent. And we who have both longstanding as well as more recent ties with the U.S. and the diaspora here. So importantly, today, we've been shining that light on Sierra Leone and its relationships with us here in the United States. Town halls, such as the one that we've had today, play a huge role in what we do and what we've done for the past 30 years. And we're very grateful to the partnership that we have been able to spark with Cambridge for the 3 years as a part of our efforts. And we look forward to more years of working together. In closing this session, let me give a concerted vote of thanks to all who have worked to make today's and this weekend's events a great success. They include our steadfast partner, Adrienne Holmes, who does heroic work in helping to put this program together, and as well in her community, and especially with the youth in Cambridge. I'd like to thank His Excellency Ambassador Sadiq Y for giving priority to us at CFA and sharing his precious time to bring us his important message. Dr. Namata Blyden, a friend, for taking time to be with us, extraordinary insights in moderating. Dr. Julius Garvey, a steadfast partner and friend to CFA and to the cause at large. The Honorable Mayor of Cambridge for sharing his historic town of Cambridge with us, and our speakers, who are longstanding friends and partners. Our board member, of course, the Honorable Stanley Straughter, Mr. Dinas Demir, Ms. Fatimata Bangura. Thank you all for always being there for and with us. Last but not least, let me thank Mel, our president, who for yes, Mel, who for over 30 years has had the vision 30 years ago, I should say, to create CFA, to champion this cause. And he's really been at the forefront of promoting a positive U.S.-Africa relationship for well over 40 years. And I've known him for many of those years. His leadership and commitment are really unrivaled in this space. And we thank him for all he does year in and year out. I think one of the messages that the ambassador just left us with when he was closing out his remarks is it's really important for us to think of ways that we can support CFA and the work that we are doing. He rightly stated that there are so many organizations. I believe Forrest as well stated something to the same effect. There's so many organizations, lobby firms and others in this town that people go to when they're looking for expertise, they're looking for guidance, they're looking for advice and the like. And so many of those firms turn to people like me, like Mel, because they know that the expertise and the relationships rest within CFA. But CFA does need continued support to be able to continue the good work that it has been doing and to strengthen and deepen those ties and the work. So as you think about CFA, think about ways that you may be able to bring those types of supports to us. I would like to wish you all a good evening, as well as good continuation for the remainder of the program that you have in Cambridge this weekend. And I bid you farewell.